Hello and welcome to Stage Door Live, a brand new web programme for the community of artists here in Ireland. My name is Amy Kidd, I'm an actor and I'll be your host this evening. When the director Kevin Michael Reid came to me and he said that he thought he wanted to create a space where you could get all of the latest headlines and hot topics from the arts community in one place, I thought that it was a great idea. So every week I'll be giving you a little news roundup of arts-related hot topics, and I'll be speaking with some guest speakers that live and work here in Ireland. We hope you enjoy the show. Tonight I'll be talking to Niamh Honer, Audience Development and Marketing Manager at the Civic Theatre, about the incredible work they're doing to support artists with the Artists Emergency Relief Fund, adapting to support their artists, and staying connected with their community by moving programmes online. I'll then be joined by two artists whose residencies have been impacted by lockdown. Cian Kinsella, one half of the comedy duo Lords of Strut, and award-winning playwright and rising star Ciara Elizabeth Smyth. We will be discussing how they are adapting to this new normal and the support they're getting. Finally this evening, I'll be talking with actor and director Aonghus Óg McAnally about how he continues his ethos of putting his money where his mouth is in supporting Irish theatre by creating the Rise COVID mini-commissions series online, and how important it is that the industry continues to be supported at all levels. I'm Amy Kidd, and this is Stage Door Live for the 13th of May 2020. Hello and welcome back to Stage Door Live. So tonight we'll be focusing on the ways theatres and artists have been adapting since lockdown. Luckily for us, even without a global crisis, artists are always adapting and responding to whatever the world throws our way. Now, if you're watching this for the first time, you will notice that we have many wonderful ways for you to interact with us during the show. You can comment in the Facebook live chat, tweet theatremaker IE, no dot, with hashtag StageDoorLive, or you can leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. If you have any comments or any questions for our guests, please don't be shy. We would love to share what you have to say during the show. You can just use hashtag ArtistsAlwaysAdapt to comment on what you're watching tonight. It's been a pretty busy week in the news, so let's jump straight into some headlines. A survey is currently going around to assist a newly forming live events industry working group in lobbying the government on a range of issues. The group reported to Stage Door Live that they have received 1,100 responses since Friday, and the survey will be staying open. You'll be able to find a link to the survey in the description of this video after we've wrapped up this episode. The working group isn't yet fully formed. However, Sophie Ridley of Safence Consulting is chairing the committee, and Liam Fitzgerald is on board as the representative from the Association of Irish Stage Technicians. Ridley said to Stage Door Live exclusively, "Pressure needs to be put on our government to support our industry, an industry that was thriving and will thrive again. But it needs some assistance to get through till next year, when hopefully we will be in full swing again. Crew and service companies need to be supported to ensure that they can survive until that point." With so much talk about the artists in theatre, it's really encouraging to see a group solely dedicated to those that work behind the scenes on making the magic happen. So there's been a lot of news coming out of the Arts Council this week. A short-term advisory group has been established by the board of the Arts Council to help identify ways to cope with the COVID-19 crisis. This group includes public health specialist Dr. Gabriel Scally, film director Lenny Abrahamson, chairperson of the NCFA Angela Dorgan, and Director of the Arts Council, Maureen Kennelly. They've been asked to address a number of questions, and one of those is: what is the scale of the emergency financial package that the arts sector will require from the government? And this is the question that does seem to be on the forefront of the sector's collective mind, as the initial 12-week period of pandemic emergency payments is coming closer and closer to its end. Over 1,800 artists and 265 arts organisations recently completed Arts Council surveys aimed at addressing the ongoing impact of COVID-19 on the sector. The complete findings of the surveys carried out in March and April are part of the Planning for Recovery research programme to provide evidence for the design of response and targeted actions that will support arts organisations and artists. The survey for individual artists posed the question, what are the main challenges you envisage in the medium term? To which the majority of artists replied, financial and the ongoing uncertainty. The complete findings from both surveys include more detailed information on the disruption to work and workspace access, as well as loss of audience and the number of artists impacted across various art forms. You can find a link to those surveys on our social media and in this post's description after tonight's show. Also released on Monday, a new statement from Arts Council Director Maureen Kennelly confirming that next generation bursaries and commission schemes will go ahead as planned. In addition, the next generation application deadline has been extended to May 21st, and details of an expanded professional development programme is going to be announced very soon. Her full statement, which also apologises for the late cancellation of selected schemes last month, can also be found on the Arts Council's website. And all this news from the Arts Council comes after Minister for Culture, Heritage and Gaeltacht, Josepha Madigan's Facebook Live address last week, in which she answered questions from the public. The 18-minute-long video focused primarily on general public health concerns, but did offer some insight as to when and how we might be able to engage with certain arts and culture activities, like visiting museums and the cinema. That video is available to watch back on Madigan's Facebook page, and we'll also throw a link in the description of this video after the show. We hope Minister Madigan will consider speaking publicly about the concerns of the arts sector. Maybe she should come on the show. If you're listening, Josepha Madigan, we would love to have you on Stage Door Live anytime. Moving on from the world of funding and on to the latest cancellations. Kilkenny Arts Festival, which was due to run August 6th to 16th, will officially not be going ahead. Festival director Olga Barry said, "While we continue to work with our wonderful artists and partners in devising new ways to bring the arts into all our lives in these challenging times, we are particularly looking forward to the future when we can all be together again in summertime in the Marble City." And Kilkenny wasn't the only organisation to take a hard hit. Electric Picnic has now joined the many festivals that will not take place, stating that cancelling our festival has become unavoidable. Many people consider this a staple of their summer and will be broken-hearted, but I can't say I'm that surprised by the decision. Ticket holders have the option of a refund or a transfer to next year's festival. And speaking of broken-hearted, I am very sad to report that last week the historic Grafton Street landmark Bewley's Cafe announced its permanent closure, citing COVID-19 related financial stress. Bewley's is not only a Dublin city icon, but it's also the home of Bewley's Cafe Lunchtime Theatre. The Cafe Theatre had previously been forced to move to an alternate premises, so we hope that they'll find a new home and bounce back. Let's finish up this segment with a few pieces of good news, some of which have particular relevance to our hot topic this week, which is, of course, artists and institutions adapting. Firstly, South Dublin City Council have agreed to sell 48 acres of land at Grange Castle Business Park for the development of a media park. Lens Media plans to have 12 sound stages with 100,000 square feet of workshop space and another 100,000 square feet of offices. Once complete, the media park is expected to generate 1,800 direct roles and a similar number of ancillary roles. The Galway Film Flower has been restructured to take place as a digital event, running 7th to the 12th of July. In an effort to maintain that fun-loving festival feeling and the community spirit, tickets are going to be limited and will be geo-blocked to Ireland. The Flower have partnered with streaming service Festival Scope to navigate the logistics of the reimagined festival, which is going to include shorts and features, as well as seminars and Q&A sessions. Ireland's artists continue to prove their ingenuity and perseverance. Irish language theatre company Phoebin has announced an innovative new drive-in theatre production for the pandemic age. Fiach, written by Philip Doherty, promises to be an outdoor spectacle with live music, projection and special effects inspired by the ancient myths of Orpheus and Eurydice and Antarctica. The production includes a thrilling live car chase and a blistering tale of love, passion, and the power of the human spirit. You can catch that in Connemara in August. And if you want to know more about that project, you can find it on our blog, where our associate producer Janice de Broth has featured it in her article for this week. So there are so many wonderful things happening amidst all the strangeness, and we're looking forward to seeing how our industry continues to grow and adapt, both in these unprecedented times and going forward in the post-pandemic world. And that is the news for this week. Our first guest is Niamh Honer, Audience Development and Marketing Manager at the Civic Theatre. The Artist Emergency Relief Fund, started by the Civic as an immediate response to this current crisis, is just one of the ways in which they are supporting their artists and the wider community. Hello.
Hi, how are
Niamh,
you?
how are you? How's your
I'm
lockdown
good.
going?
Good. I'm just waiting for my children to walk in the door any second. So yeah,
Oh,
busy homeschooling and yeah, juggling lots. Working from home, setting up an office. It's just surreal, but the sun is shining. I keep saying that we've been very lucky
yeah,
with the weather. A great time of year for a lockdown.
yeah. No, it's lovely to have
I
some
might
time
just
to sit in the sun.
fix my camera a little bit
Have
just
a bit of
so I'm a
fixing?
little bit more center. Yeah, it's better.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. So let's jump straight in. First off, would you just tell us a bit about the Civic's mission, values, place in the community, things like that?
Yeah, so it's our 21st year. We just celebrated our 21st birthday very early in March, and things were on the up. Audience is growing all the time. Great atmosphere, great community spirit. So we like to think of ourselves as a place of possibility in the heart of Tallaght. So about transforming experiences for anything from, a stage school to artists coming in to play and create work, right up to large scale performances. So that's what we try to do, just be a place of possibility. And the world was our oyster. It was really great. Our 21st birthday party happened. We had Howie the Rookie, which was the first play staged back in 1999 in the Civic. It came back then with Glass Masks, Dee Jones and Rex Ryan there in early March. Fantastic night. And suddenly a couple of weeks later, here we are.
Here we are. I love that
Yeah,
phrase you used, by the way, a place of possibility, was it? I love that.
yeah,
That's gorgeous.
a place of
But
possibility in the heart of Tallaght.
yeah. And so, as you said, here we are. So let's jump into the Emergency Relief Fund. The action that the Civic took there was so quick. What inspired that action? Kind of how did it come about?
So things started to bubble. We started to hear things coming out of Asia, obviously, and slowly but surely people start to ask each other questions, what if, or what might this look like? And immediately artists and people in the industry and our friends and our associates started to phone us up and say, have you heard, or what do you think, or what might be? So we started, our day became fielding questions and phone calls. So we realized suddenly that, things were bubbling and people needed support and people needed advice and a sounding board and what's everybody else thinking. And that was just before St. Patrick's Day. So, middle of March. And then the phone calls came through that the festival was cancelled. An artist who had been working obviously for months and months on projects, that was cancelled. So we got this feeling that there was an immediate need for support. And apart from advice, the panic set in very quickly about, well, what's next week going to look for me? Look like for me, or how am I going to meet my rent, or what might my creative experience be in the next couple of months? So. And my colleague Niamh Ferry, there's two Niamhs in the Civic, and we always laugh about this. I'm Niamh Honer, and my colleague Niamh Ferry, the two Niamhs, we often get mixed up as one person. We're a hybrid. But she took the time very quickly to start to research about, okay, we need to get support out there very quickly, and came up with this idea of an emergency relief fund where we could react in the short term to needs, financial needs, because as we know, the life of an artist is very precarious, very tricky, and there's been some feedback, why can't you just apply for the government support? But many artists haven't been in an immediate employment just before this hit, so they hit red tape.
Many so we meet the criteria.
Absolutely. So we decided to set about, if you could just prove if, one gig had been cancelled or any sort of loss of income, just show us and we would pay out a grant very, very quickly. So very little red tape involved, no red tape actually. So we decided to set ourselves a target of 10 grand. Let's see if we can raise 10 grand and support a short-term grants, 500 for a couple of artists. And it grew and grew, and the support from the community has just been amazing. People stepping in to say, well, how can we support this? So yeah, it's just grown. So we have increased from that small initial ambition of 10,000, and now we're just approaching 50,000, and that's our target. So yeah, it's been amazing. And you've had a few
artists jump in and do things to support, like Stephen Jones and Aonghus Óg McAnally, who we have on later. Has the work that artists like that been doing, has that made a big impact on donations?
Well, first of all, it's about the support and people listening to each other and recognising in the first instance that, we're also vulnerable in these. Well, venues are one thing, but artists immediately on the front line, and there are front line, are immediately vulnerable. So we've been called a ray of light, a beacon of hope, and a shoulder to lean on. So that's very important, that people feel like we're in this together, and it's really important. So yeah, Stephen Jones walked what we call the Camino for theatre. So he was about to set off to walk the Camino for real, and that obviously was cancelled. So he was itching to go. We had all his kit ready, so he walked from Driocht out to Axis in Ballymun, over to Pavilion in Dunleary, and back to Tala. I think it took him 9 hours or something, and he was just determined. So every little initiative, not little, that was huge, mammoth task, but everything that artists are doing to support feeds the fund, and it keeps coming in. And honestly, for every piece of investment that comes in like that, or every donation, we pay straight out. It's like literally 24 hours. So we have raised just shy of 48,000 now. So that's 90 artists in receipt of €500. And honestly, many of these artists aren't in receipt of the government payment because they cannot prove, and the delays and the backlogs and all of that. So,
so that makes a difference too.
Huge, absolutely. So yeah, Niamh Ferry that weekend back in March thought it all up, spent hours on the computer piecing it together, getting the forms together, getting the ideas together, reaching out. We've had support from business to arts, artists, and it's not Dublin, it's all Ireland. So anyone could apply. But the unfortunate thing, when we opened the applications on St. Patrick's Day, within a couple of hours, we were inundated with applications and had to close it very shortly afterwards. And that's the really soul-destroying thing, to know that there's a need there and it's genuine. So we need to look to our higher powers to support our arts and our the lifeblood of our country, basically.
And it's not just the emergency relief fund that you've been doing that's been supporting kind of artists in the community. You've also adapted in other ways. So programs like Tenderfoot, which I believe is a transition year program, has moved online. Would you mind telling us a bit about that?
So Tenderfoot would be probably one of our proudest programs that we run. It's been running for 12 years now, and it is a theatre program for transition year students. And it brings them in from sort of September time, where they start to develop work guided by theatre professionals, mentors in areas of sound design, script writing, stage management, costume, the whole gamut. And in January then they stage performances for their peers. It's not censored, so they can write about anything they like, and it's crafted and put forward. So what we did with the support of Creative Ireland this year is did some research with schools in South County Dublin, because the Civic is based in South County Dublin, and have now reached out to, so initially it was 6 schools, 8 schools, and now we're up to 18 schools. So the idea would be now that there are writing hubs to draw out the best of talent of young people in our county to express, what they want to write about. And that will be staged then in January. But obviously we've had to move into new times. So the idea would be that they would go into little hubs and work together, over the few months. They were actually so dedicated, they were to work through the summer, and that will still happen. But now it's moved into the online environment. So with the support of mentors like Amy Conroy, Dylan Coburn-Byrne, Veronica Conroy, Michelle Reid, there's great support there. We have many students now from 18 schools in the county working. And what I'm really interested to see now is in these times, because they're writing at the moment, in the present, pieces that would eventually arrive on stage. It might be today or tomorrow or when we had planned. Let's see what happens. But the themes that come out, what's on the minds of our young people, what are there? And you might think it's about angst or feeling restricted, or having to work within the 4 walls all of the time in the current climate. But actually, from what I'm hearing initially from the mentors, it's not. They're thinking into places like space, and where their minds are just going into really distant places away from where they are. It's not all doom and gloom, and lots of hope there actually. And they recognize the spirit of community and how we've all actually galvanized and come together. So I'd be really interested to see what comes out of these scripts. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. And it's nice to know the next generation of theatre makers getting some chance to develop a bit during this time. So that's lovely.
And sit back and reflect, and it's not all, do and go, think. And I think a lot of theatre practitioners and people in the industry now some are saying, it's a lethargic time and they're finding it hard to be creative, but are also welcoming the space to see what comes and what happens, rather than having just to have deadlines and having to meet certain points in time. So it would be interesting.
Anything comes organically, you can act on it. You don't, that's very true. So your website has lots of links to resources and supports that artists can call on. Do you feel like it's the responsibility of institutions like the Civic to be providing that information, to be supporting in the way that you are?
The gut instinct would be yes, because of the initial phone calls that I mentioned in the first part of the interview. Where do people turn to for information, for advice, for guidance. So that's why I would think of the Civic as being that kind of hub, that central point where people could turn to. So we always say, come on in, we're open doors. That's part of our ethos and our values. So initially, we had information across, everything from applying to social welfare to, what theatre resources you can have for your children or whatever it might be. And we led the charge with that initially. And we keep updating that, and as stuff comes through, even we're seeing information about like return to work practices and social distancing. So as a venue, we're obviously really, really concerned about these kind of things. But what I'm really heartened to see is that on a regional and a local level, that's happening. So you will see, we give a shout out to the likes of Backstage in Longford, for example. They are doing a resource guide that is national, but they're also including the local. And that's really important because people in localities want to know maybe how they can support an artist locally or get involved in something that might be online around them, as well as having the national outlook.
That's great. So I have a final question for you. These interviews are always too short and sweet, and it's been lovely chatting to you. But my last question is, what are your hopes for the Civic and for the industry in Ireland as we move post-COVID?
It's a time of change. It's a time of huge opportunity. I think we can sit back and reflect and think of where things might go. I think an awful lot of artists and companies are feeling very much under pressure to have to respond in the online context, and that's true. And I get that, wanting to be connected to your audience, be connected to your peers in your network. But theatre fundamentally is about the connection of the human spirit, and I would just like to see maybe workarounds, maybe different spaces, different ways of working, a different outlook, a different perspective, just a time of reflection. And when we do come back together in those shared experiences. But look, it's going to be a new normal. And I'm really, really, above everything else, I am so heartened by the support out there in the arts community. Just conversations that are going on, debates about how things might be, learning from each other. We're still so early days, but I know we won't have to go far. We have to bounce a question off somebody, learn from each other, and just be that creative response to what needs to go forward. And no better industry. We just need higher level, as far as I'm concerned, higher level infrastructure supports for our industry and our artists and our frontline workers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on all of that. Now we have a social media question. So that wasn't the last question after all. Okay. But I can't read it at all. So I'm going to ask the producer to text it to me so that I can ask it to you, because it's blurry. Oh, or he's going to say it to me. Would a cross-theatre online subscription work for, what was the rest of that? As a way of generating money for the industry. Would online theatre subscription work as a way of generating money for the industry? What do you think about that, Niamh?
We're looking at, I suppose, we have to keep income streams going. Like we're a venue. Our box office is our main source of income. That's been wiped out. It's very scary. So quality needs to be there. There's technical issues. We're working at the moment with a group called Bingo Wings and doing online classes, and we have to work with different cohorts that don't have access to technology. We're trying to log them in, so we can't take everyone as having the same access. So you have to look at your different markets, your different groups. So quality is an issue. There's a lot of free stuff out there at the minute. We have our National Theatre the National Theatre in the UK broadcasting really high quality stuff. We had Dear Ireland free for everybody to watch, you know. So I think there's a little bit of a concern about really good quality entertainment, theatre, whatever, been available. You will see everything from classes to opera available free online. So where's the business model going to kick in with that? So if we create a culture of free arts, where does that leave the artist? So I think we're just learning. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn and grow. Technology needs to be there to support that. I don't think anybody has the answers at the minute. But as I go back to the last point I made, no better group of people, industry, to support and learn and grow with each other. There's not a sense, it's not cutthroat. Nobody's out to gain one upmanship on each other. We want to all help each other and assist. And that's where the real advantage will be. We're in it together.
Yeah, the better and stronger we are, the better and stronger we all are. We all benefit from that. Thank you so much, Niamh, for joining us tonight. Thank you for all of the work that you and the Civic are doing. That's all we have time for, so I'm going to say goodbye and stay safe.
Thanks.
Bye. Our first arch in isolation is Rickie O'Neill. He's a musician and an actor and hails from County Mayo. Rickie is using his isolation to fundraise for the Irish Cancer Society, which is great. Check it out.
Hi guys, my name is Rickie O'Neill and I'm a 29-year-old musician and actor from County Mayo, which is where I am now, currently isolating during this rough period of our lives. So I grew up in a small town in Mayo called Claremorris, which is, I'm at my father's home place here now, which is just outside the town. I was introduced to drums by my brother Barry. He had gotten a drum set. So when he'd go off to school, I'd start playing his drums. And when he'd come home from school, then I would quickly run off them and claim I didn't touch them all day long, even though there'd be dents in them and everything. Got into a couple of bands once I went into secondary school. And that was kind of it, and kind of started playing in local bands and doing pub gigs and really starting to learn how to play to people and stuff like that. And that's the only kind of formal training I have, I guess, in that I learned by doing. I didn't go to college for drums or music or anything like that. Unfortunately, right now we cannot really do much work together physically, music or any other sort of art, unfortunately. But that's how you learn, is by playing with other people. That's how you get better as well, and you chew your ear tunes to good musicality by just listening to the people around you. Aside from drumming, I'm also an actor. I've been in stuff like Once the Musical and Red Rock, Can't Cope, Won't Cope, all these things. Irish Crime Stories, which was an Irish-German production. So yeah, I've been very fortunate to tour the world with all amazing productions. Like once, you can see here, I'm wearing the hoodie, we went to Korea for 7 weeks on our first year in 2015 after we did like a 2.5 month stint in the Olympia in Dublin. Went to Korea for 7 weeks then. And then we did it 2016, 2017 in Dublin in the Olympia. And that show was an absolute, it was one of the best experiences I've ever gone through. So yeah, I mean, acting has been I started it in like 2013, I think. And the first ever part I ever got was a McDonald's commercial, so that was great. I'm also in Breakfast on Pluto, the musical, which is going to be produced by Landmark Productions. Unfortunately, this year it has been postponed until 2021, next year. So we're going to make our world debut next year, hopefully. More details should be released, but it's going to be an absolute, an amazing show, for sure. as you can see, you are in my drum booth here in an undisclosed part of Mayo. So these are my drums. These are where this is where the action, this is where the magic happens, as they say. So I've been doing a fundraiser for the Irish Cancer Society for probably the last 3 weeks, whereby I take requests off people who want to hear their favourite songs on the drums. And now it's not the full song, it's like the first 30 seconds to a minute. So I take requests on Instagram and post it up on my story and tag the people's name in it, whoever requested it. It was really nice to be playing all these different songs and stuff, and one day I just said, you know what, I'm going to set up a fundraiser for Irish cancer. So I set it up and I set the goal, the first goal, to €500. And I said to myself, you know what, that's something to go strive towards now. So that'll probably take a couple of weeks to get to that. So I set that up at like 12:30 one afternoon. And by 1:30 we had €500 made. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't know how to react or what to do. So I just kept bumping it up, the goal, the fundraising goal. And now we are at close to 5,750, which is beyond my wildest dreams. Everyone's generosity and love and support for it was immense. Everyone enjoys the videos, as do I. I love doing them. So it was completely unexpected how it just snowballed so quickly. And you know, I would very much hope that we could probably get to 10,000 at some point, you know. It's brilliant, and this money will do such great things for Irish Cancer and help them do their work to the best of their ability, like they always do. But I know it will definitely help and really change people's lives for the better. So it's great. I was also part of the Galway 2020 opening ceremony creative team, and now the opening ceremony at the end was eventually cancelled due to bad weather. But I was drum chief for that opening ceremony, in that our job was to round up volunteers who have never played drums before, was to train up volunteers. I think it was about 300, 400 volunteers that would play drums in the opening ceremony. Our job was to make sure that they were learning the specific beats that were being assigned to them, that everyone was comfortable, everybody was happy, and we were at different stations around various towns in Galway that would eventually culminate in the city on the opening ceremony day, all of them together from all the towns in the city, and play for the masses. I've never come across a more dedicated, inspiring group of people in my life as them volunteers. The physical act of drumming for them, because they'd never done it before, was a release of an energy that they didn't know they possessed, and we had the pleasure of witnessing the release of this energy in them as they told us their lives have been changed from playing the drums. And to be part of this community for the 3 months we were rehearsing, or 2 months, the way they attacked each task we gave them with enthusiasm, with care, with joy and pride, was just inspiring on every single level you could imagine. We changed people's lives through what we brought them, or the opportunity we could give them. I think is enough for me to say, okay, that's a good testament to the job we were doing. Doing the fundraiser every day has been a great thing, because it keeps the mind busy. It's good to work on your drumming. It's great practice. Before you know it, the day is gone, like, you know. Now there is that sense of I guess sadness that comes across you every time, well, some days, because you wake up and you realise, well, there's no danger in the day, and I mean that in a good sense of danger. There's nowhere to go, there's nothing you can do really, and it's Groundhog Day every day. But I just try and look at it like every night when I go to bed. Did I learn something today? Can I do something better on the drums today than I did the day before? So I'm always testing myself in that respect. And I found that if you gauge it like that, for me anyway, it's a really good motivator, and all of a sudden you don't really mind that you've nowhere to go, because this is your challenge now, is working on these things, you know. I get up, I put on the coffee, and I come out and I look at the list of songs I have to go through for people who've requested them, and go through them and practice stuff. And you know, you don't feel the day going. Before you know it, it's 3 o'clock, and then it's 7, and then, you know, you're in the home stretch to bedtime. So the day flies for me. And no, I'm not saying I'd like this to last forever. No, it'd be nice to get back to reality in some form. It's important that you do all these things during this time, because I'm lucky to have drums here, and I know there's drummers out there who aren't as lucky to have a drum kit set up so easily to play with nobody around that they can bother. So I'm very lucky, and I'm taking advantage of that as much as I can. So yeah, taking advantage of the isolation time for sure. Time for this evening of the Isolation Dram Bonanzas. Thanks so much to everyone who has donated today and so far across this amazing journey. I'm having the best time of my life. I am learning so much about life, about drums, about myself, and definitely feeling the love every day from all you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow for some more isolation in the drum booth. We're going to melt all the faces down into a fine molten lava. Should have been a poet. Thank you. Much love from the drum booth. Until tomorrow.
To Rickie's fundraiser for a worthy cause. It's on Facebook, and to make it really easy to find, we're even going to put the link in the description of this show after this ends. So, keeping on the topic of artists adapting, we have a double whammy of lovely artists joining us next. We've got Cian Austin Jesus Kinsella, who is one half of the comedy duo Lords of Strut, and they're currently artists in residence at VISUAL Carlow. In lieu of an in-house residency during lockdown, VISUAL has created Our Thriving Tribe, a way for artists to stay connected and to keep creating. We also have Ciara Elizabeth Smyth, who is an actor, playwright and director, and whose recent work includes We Can't Have Monkeys in the House and Sauce, and particularly recently, Kiera wrote Party Party as part of the Abbey Theatre's Dear Island. Kiera is currently working on a new play with the support of Hatch and Scratch at the Mac, Belfast. Before I welcome them both, we have a little clip of Cian, who has been busy tending the lawn during lockdown. Maybe I should have said land or lawn, but let's find out now. Let's have a look.
Hi. Want to get back to the land, get in tune with nature. Potato! These are potatoes. These are potatoes. This is a potato. Seed potato. So you can buy them from your local farm supply shop. Much like that. And then you go all the way up along the row. This is going to be over. Once you dig it, it will aerate and get loose. And you want a good loose soil. Well, how do you want your soil? You want it loose, looser. When you're out in your garden and you're working with your soil, think about me and just think looser. Looser. So I'm going to leave that there for a couple of days.
Hello and welcome to... I'm still shouting. Hello and welcome to Dance Out, the dance party dance class that's part workout. Sometimes it's more dance than workout, and sometimes more workout than dance, and sometimes it's the spaces in between.
You got to style it out. So you need a go-to dance space. Like... And then when you get like really, you get like something really on the beat, you're really happy with yourself. It's like, yeah, woo! You don't want to stay there either, or you look mental. So go from there back to your go-to face. Yeah, I got it right. Let's see you selling it.
And on that note, welcome to the show, Kiera and Cian. I'm going to jump straight into questions because whenever I start with how are you, when there's two screens, everyone just doesn't know what to do. So my first question, I'm going to come to you first, Kiera, but I'm going to pretty much ask Cian the exact same question in a second. So
Right.
how are you doing, and what was the immediate impact of the lockdown on you and on your work?
Hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, the immediate impact for me was I had a couple of shows cancelled straight away. I had a show in Dublin Fringe Festival last September called Sauce. That was due to
Yeah,
go
I saw
to...
it.
Did you? Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh, cheers.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you. Yeah, it was due to go to the Lyric in Belfast and then for 4 weeks in Bewley's in April. So that was cancelled, and which was devastating, but it was, both venues were very kind and they were like, you know, take this as a postponing more than a cancellation. And I am confident that the show will come back. It's, logistically speaking, it's a nice show to put on. It's 60 minutes. It's a comedy. There's 2 actors. There's no costume changes or anything like that. So it's easy enough,
Yeah.
but it doesn't look like it'll go back to Beauties, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's such sad news.
Oh, it's devastating.
Didn't think-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really bad. I mean, otherwise I had, there wasn't a huge change to my schedule because I had a lot of time blocked off for writing. So I'm just on my own in a room, which is what I would have been doing anyway. So I feel very lucky in that regard.
And you just moved from Dublin to Belfast, is that correct?
Yeah, I
Did you
literally,
move
at the end of
all hatched
February.
scratch? Or...
No, I had been planning to move anyway because I can't afford Dublin anymore, which isn't, I'm sure I'm not alone in that, but like I was living in a 3-bedroom flat with 2 other girls in Dublin, and we moved to a 3-bed house in Belfast for half the rent. So it was kind of a no-brainer because I had been planning to write anyway, and if I'm taking time off to write, I might as well not be crippled with debt from it. So we were really lucky. We literally just got in the house, and then 2 weeks later lockdown happened.
Wow. Yeah, you're not wrong about the rent there. You might be
Yeah.
putting ideas in people's heads.
Come to Belfast.
So Ian, I'm gonna come to you. So pretty much the same question. What was the immediate impact of the lockdown on you and your work? And how are you doing?
I do fine, thanks. But how am I doing? Right now, I'm in good form, but it's a bigger question. But thanks for showing those clips. That was a few videos put together.
Welcome.
You probably edited them as harshly as I should have. First off, I just lost gigs. Oh, all right, that's not happening. And inside, like we were meant to be with Lords of Strut, we were meant to be going over to Paris to do a couple of gigs at the Cultural Centre Irlandaise. Some gigs are nicer than other gigs, and that's a nice gig. And
Yeah.
You know, there's some gigs like, oh well, you know, you think of the financial thing and everything, but that was a gig that I forward to for ages. You get like, anyway, I won't go on about it, or I'll make us all sad. But there was that, and then a multitude of other gigs, and also a workshop I was really looking forward to that was in just coincidentally France. That was in slapstick. I haven't taken a workshop in years, so I was really kind of geared up to do that. And then just seeing our kind of year, most of my work is with Lords of Strut, I do a bit outside of it, but really most of it is with Lords of Strut. And I just saw the festivals going down. The first like big one was Glastonbury, and that was like because they cancelled earlier than a lot of other festivals did, and that was a little crystal ball into what was coming. And so I was just like, all right, the whole summer is gone. And then more recently, after our summer tour, pretty much straight away, we had a tour planned that was going to take us to an Irish tour that was 15 venues, which in Ireland is a big enough tour. Certainly it's the biggest one that we would have done in a row. But that was reliant on the touring funding from the Arts Council, which got cancelled. And it didn't get cancelled with like, oh, this other thing can happen, or maybe some of the 2021 dates can happen, or here's some contingency plan, or here's some like, it was just cancelled. So as well as all our summer festivals, then this like thing I was holding on to, maybe we'll still get to do our winter tour, and now that is evaporated as well.
Yeah, and had you put oh no, sorry, go on. Oh, you said
no.
I thought you suddenly remembered something else. You must have put in a lot of work into the application. Was it all done and ready to go? And
it was in. There's two. I don't know what it's called, but there was two. It was in, and yeah, it wasn't just myself and Cormac. The other one from Lords of Strut with other on it, and it was a really strong application. And, it was working with a lot of venues that we had built up from tours, and these things take a long time to put into place, and they're not just, it's not just the work, it's like the goodwill, and you ask other people to put in the time. So a huge amount of work goes into them, and you know when you put them in, like kind of what your chances are. Like if it's a really good application, you know you have a good chance of getting it, and it was.
Oh, that's gutting.
Yeah.
So let's clear ourselves up a little bit and rewind. Pretend that we're pre-COVID. We don't know what's coming yet. So you both had stuff going on. You both had residencies. So Kiera, you had Hatch and Scratch, and Cian, you had Visual. So I'd love to hear a bit about those, kind of in the context of what they meant to you, how you got them, what the process would usually have been if all this hadn't happened. So, Ciara, yourself.
Sure. I mean, I got Hatch and Scratch in the Mac Theatre in Belfast, and it's definitely the best thing that could have happened to me in the last couple of months, especially with moving up to Belfast and being in a new city. I'm still going to make a lot of work in the Republic, but Hatch and Scratch to me was not only they have a bursary and to be a resident of the MAC, so you would be allowed access to the building and rehearsal space, but it was contextualization in a new city. It was an opportunity to meet a network of artists as well, which is what I would really want up here, is to start working with local artists. And I think that those two things have probably been the biggest loss to me. Is I would love to get into the building. I'm going to get into a building, into a rehearsal room as well. I'm like all theatre artists. I'm just the second they let me back in one, even if I have nothing on, I'll go back in. And
just run around
yeah, pretty much by myself. But I think I can still. I mean, the MAC have been amazing, and they the Hatch and Scratch was supposed to run from April to September, and they have said that there's flexibility there if what we are planning to do requires entrance to the building. And they've still offered, mentorship, which is another thing I was really looking forward to, and still am looking forward to, I suppose. And I will get to meet the other artists as well, because I think there's 12 artists in total on Hatch and Scratch, so there's 12 residents in there, which is really exciting.
So have they totally adapted the programme to online, or are there more kind of ways to the support?
I think they're just waiting to see what they can do. I mean, the culmination of Hatch and Scratch was supposed to be a scratch night where all the artists presented work in progress pieces. So I think they're just waiting to see what they can do. The goal is to put on a scratch night if we can, I believe. So they haven't adapted just yet, because there's no pressure to adapt just yet. Yeah. But bar communication with the theatre and the artists, like there's no public event that we have to adapt. They may still do that, but I mean, from my experience from Dear Ireland, which I was very lucky to get a commission for and delighted to be a part of, but it was very difficult. I was on my own. The other actor that the actor I was working with, Camille Lucy Ross, was obviously on her own and had to record the piece. And what we realised very quickly is the first draft I wrote, when we went into rehearsal, we were on a Zoom call and it was terrible. Like, it was so bad. And I think one of the reasons for that is because it may have worked in theatre, but it doesn't work on screen. So that was a huge hurdle to get over, because there was so many other things I had to think of. We had to think of, because what might be compelling in a room with bodies and energy is not compelling on screen. It's boring. Yeah, so I think it's a different job. Yeah, it's totally different. So like, we played a lot around with the visuals and editing, like even doing a lot of jump cuts to just try and keep the pace moving, and what was essentially a monologue, which is not something that you see on screen a whole lot, unless it's like a stylistic choice, I suppose. So if they do adapt Hatch and Scratch, it will feel like a different thing, I think, for me, because I'm writing a play. I'll adapt it if needs be, but they're two very different mediums.
I have to ask as well, those post-its behind you, are they to do with your writing process?
So embarrassing. Yeah, they are. It looks like I stuck them up specifically for this. But
no.
It does. But they're just for like, for me, I'm pitching at the moment. I've tried to move a lot of work towards television, and to pitch succinctly and not talk absolute codswallop. I have to plan out like the story on post-its.
Oh, I might try that.
Yeah, do it. Good.
So Cian, could you tell us a bit about your visual residency, what it was before and how it's changed?
Well, right now it's not. There is no residence. My residency is in my head. It was what was 1 day a week for the year of 2020. If I could make it, with no pressure, but I had no. It was time and space, use however I like, which is a really important thing. We need spaces and we need buildings just to go to, as a place to go to, and also where there is potential to meet other people, whether they're other artists, administrators, theatre masters, also a gallery in visual. So you have a beautiful space that has art in it that you can just go and wander in and think if your head allows it. But we need more spaces like that, and artists work so much on their own, and that's fine. I'll never be bored. I'll always be able to work. But actually, a place of congregation to mix ideas and thought processes and work is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you're all working on separate projects, kind of having some space where there's a communal coffee break room or something, I find that anytime you're working on something, just even saying it out loud to another artist, it just ignites something, doesn't it? So is there
Yeah,
anything that they're doing now? Are you engaged with them in any way during lockdown?
yeah. We had a discussion with David, who's running the residency with me in the visual on our Thriving Tribe, something that he had pre-existing, which was an online thing, with online resource, mostly for people getting into the arts and theatre. And then, so I didn't know about it before, and I'm certainly not an ambassador of it, so I won't speak too much about it. But, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But I was just brought on a discussion group, and it was myself and a couple of other Carlow-based or from artists. And it was only a couple of weeks into the COVID isolation. So we were just talking about how we were and how we were, if we were creating, how we were feeling, what kind of things we were leaning towards. And it was very useful to get. It was, at the time I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. But the connecting gave much more than just the conversation that we had. And the conversations were guided by David, because he had a plan with it all. But it was really good just to see where other people were at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So how important do you think the support of institutions like Visual and like the MAC are for artists, not just during lockdown, but always for the artistic community?
I mean, I think they're integral. I like there's nothing more important than the weight of an institution giving you their support. Not only to allow you to create something or make some mistakes, but also to give you a bit of confidence that someone has endorsed you and gone, no, I think you're good enough, or you're interesting enough, or you're worth it. Which is something I think a lot of artists struggle with, is confidence. Certainly something I struggle with.
And people talk all the time about the freedom to fail, but once you're actually outside of any kind of training, it's so hard to find those opportunities to feel free to fail without
Well, they don't
the feeling
exist, really.
Yeah.
Unless it's something like an artist support development initiative, or like a bursary or a residency like this. You can't really afford to have a failure. I mean, of course you can, like in theory, but in financial terms, you can't at all. And your next job is based on your reputation as well.
Yeah, totally. Cian, do you have anything to add to that, kind of the value of the support of institutions for artists?
Yeah, well, I didn't really have a relationship with the visual, and I'd had a show there. That was kind of the first step, and I'd met some of the people from there. But my show was there as part of Carlow Arts Festival, so I had nothing got to do with it. But then we asked them for support on a show. We were making a show last year, Champions of Dance, that was in Dublin. We were going to get a day or a couple of days, brand new show, and we needed to create the lighting design. We needed to be in a real theatre. We needed to be in somewhere similar that the show was going to be put on, and hang our set and have all the facilities. And we asked them, and they changed their schedule around to facilitate it. And at their own cost, we contributed something to it financially, but really they just kind of jumped in and were like, yeah, how can we help? And I hadn't experienced that before, but I hadn't asked for it before either.
So I think there probably is more support from our institutions than we can sometimes think or see. But I think they're like the big dogs. I've more experience in DI spaces that were empty buildings that resourceful people went and got the buildings, and then other artists went into them, like in Cork, in the circus community down there. We've gone through a couple of buildings and worked with other arts groups down that just congregate in buildings, and then at some point the building goes. But while you have the building, you have a golden time of loads of artists working in the same space. And so that's been my experience. I haven't come from a place where institutions were I was involved with them. But we can think of, when you're coming from like a DIY or more kind of pirate side of the arts, you can think of these big institutions as sponges that just take all the resources. But it's very easy to look from the outside and criticize them, because they are what they are. They're a necessary part. They work really hard to get all the funding. And then when you are in that place, you need staff. You have to have administrators. The heating has to be on. I'm used to working with no administrators, everybody working for free and no heating. So when those bills all start rocketing up, and then people who are only starting out in the arts or do stuff DIY, that amount of money is jaw-dropping. And if with just a tiny fraction of that money being given into kind of DIY independent arts and buildings like the ones that I was involved in Cork, then loads can happen. So much can happen from them. But that's not the institution's fault. There's something in between. And I think now what's happening with everybody, or a lot, I know not everybody, but a lot of people getting the COVID-19 payments, there is a bottom-up financial support. And I think...
So you haven't actually said the word government yet, but I'm assuming you mean that the thing in between the institutions and stuff is the government distribution and policies and things.
Yes. So, you know, I've only been learning about these kind of ways economics can work since this has all started. But there's many ways to make economic systems work and to give out money that need to turn the economy. One is from the top and one is from the bottom. But it doesn't need to be one or two. And I think that's what we need with the arts as well. We need to have big, strong institutions like the Visual and the Civic that like support us and champion us and give us like a next level on. But we also need simple spaces to just muck around in, and places where we can take those risks and fail.
Yeah. Kiera, you're nodding lots there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That too. Yeah.
Yeah, like 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm quite sad to say that that's all that we have time for in this section. I feel I could chat to you two for ages. So thank you so much to both of you for joining us and for the lovely chats, and good luck with projects that you're working on now and everything in the future. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Our second Art in Isolation feature comes from the Galway-based Fergoli Theatre Company. They're talking about their residency at the Roscommon Arts Centre and finding home.
Hello, my name is Maria Tivnan. I'm the Artistic Director of Galway-based company Fergoli Theatre.
My name is Ciara Elizabeth Smyth and I'm writing a play for Fergoli at the moment.
Hi, my name is Eanna Hardwicke and I work with Fergoli Theatre Company as an actor, but also in PR marketing and with a main focus on social media.
Hi, my name is Kate and I'm a member of Fergoli Theatre Company.
My name is Ailish McCarthy and I'm a member of Fergoli Theatre Company.
Hi, my name is Peter Shine and I am just one of the actors who is involved with Fergoli Theatre Company at the moment as part of their Roscommon Arts Centre residency, the title of which is Finding Home.
Fergoli started in 2007, so we're in our 13th year, which is kind of hard to believe. And I like the number 13, but hopefully this year will turn good. We started basically out of Dramsock in NUIG, and we had done, a few of us had done Disco Pigs, End of Walsh, and we got on really well at the Irish Student Drama Awards, and a judge just said to us, why aren't you doing this for real, for real? And we thought, let's do it. And it went from there. Our first play as Fergoli was Bedbound, which we did in the Cellar Bar in Galway in the summer of 2007. And our latest work was the Fergoli Heart Project, which was performed with Court, the Court International Festival of Literature in Nuns Island Theatre last April. So we've had 26 productions in those 12 years, and it's been amazing, really. Leopold Fergoli was the world is an old Italian actor from like the 15th century, and he was the world's most famous impersonator. And it's also the name of a disorder called Fergoli delusion, where you think everybody in the room is the one person playing many parts. So that idea of character changing and actors playing many parts was something we did a lot at the start, and elements of that style is still seen in our work. The latter half of our journey has really been focused on original work and new writing and new writers and celebrating that. And so Pleasure Ground would have been probably a big one for us, a breakthrough. We won the Michael Diskin award from the town hall here, which was really lovely, a really lovely one to get. And the town hall have always been quite very supportive of us, and it's a place we would have worked a lot. And that tour went on a small tour, and that was our first big stage show where we had a budget, small but a budget. And I'm very lucky actually to think that this journey is still ongoing, and we're still exploring and doing work. And I suppose what we came together as a company to do what I assume all theatre companies do, to tell a story, and but not necessarily a narrative. So to communicate something, but also we're creating a dialogue with the audience. It's not just about us doing our thing, but what we learn when we put this story we've worked on in front of people, and we feed off that and each other, of course. And I guess this is what we're all missing now during this health crisis, is that ability to share space with each other. So this year Fergoli was awarded the Theatre Company in Residence for Roscommon Arts Centre. I'm from County Roscommon, and Jarlath, who is my cousin who's also in the company, is from Roscommon, and Peter as well is from Roscommon. So we've got a lot of Roscommon blood in the company. To get the residency meant a lot to me and to us, because it's like life in general. Just you need to feel valued. Everyone needs to feel valued, and your work needs to feel valued. And we're working a long time without a lot of resources, and to be granted a space really adds to the value. And you feel like we've got this space to work in. We can come and go. People, we've been supported by this organisation. We have a home as such. And we called our residency Finding Home, because home is something that we're all really interested in, and home can mean so many things. And it's like theatre in itself. It's abstract, and it's concrete, and it's physical, and it's not, and it's mental and social and everything else. And you can go to home in your head, or what does it mean to feel at home, all those kinds of things. So this is what we were going to explore in Roscommon, and we had just started. So
as part of our residency with the Roscommon Arts Centre, I was afforded a beautiful spacious room in the centre itself for 3 weeks before the pandemic, and that time and space was amazing for me, because it might sound weird to people not involved in theatre, but time and space are often very rare commodities because of a lack of resources, be it financial or physical space itself. So that time and space was amazing to create a foundation for this play.
social media is become vital to us, like all businesses, as a way of connecting with our audience and letting them know that we're still here. So when the restrictions first came into place, we first met on Zoom as a team and reconnected and restructured a plan. We were just beginning a residency with the Roscommon Arts Centre, and we started to structure a plan as how to continue that work from our homes and get it to our audiences.
Now it's like everybody else, trying to figure out how do we cope with this, how do we cope with the changing rules and regulations and situations, and try to maintain our art and our work, and I guess look to a medium that we didn't choose. It simply started. We meet every Monday on Zoom, which is a word I never heard of 2 months ago, and we read bits of established scripts, and we started, just to get the muscles and the drama brain, the theatre brain, then to be together. And I suppose through the first initial meetings, a work started to happen naturally. We talked about what we could and couldn't do, and then we talked about the space of Zoom and the boxes, and how do we connect through this, and how can we tell our stories and work on our ideas about home through this medium for now, and I guess that's what we're trying to keep in our heads, that this is for now. We're eager and enthusiastic and really happy that we can do that, and it's a choice, we're choosing to try this out. We're really, really cannot wait to get back into a rehearsal room together and back into that space.
The next step will be to engage with the project or projects and get them to our audience. So we have 4 on the go, 3 of which will be produced online, 2 very likely to be on Facebook Live, and on the 3rd one we're looking at options for a possible invited event for that piece. We're also going to be releasing what we call tangents over YouTube over the next coming weeks, which is a sneak peek into our rehearsal process, into those Zoom meetings that are a bit like an artistic workout as well, because we read and we rehearse and we find new ways to just connect with the work the same way we want to connect with the audiences.
We talked about, right before all of this happened, the idea of home as being a sanctuary or a prison, a safe or an unsafe place. So Tara, who's in the company, was working on that idea anyway. So we have another piece coming out, which will be, I suppose I keep using the word piece because I'm not quite sure. I'm reluctant to say play. It is a performance, but some will be live elements and some will be recorded. So that's why I'm using piece. That's called Inside You Stay. And then we are looking at just the stuff that goes on in the rehearsal room when we're there, the tangents, the things that happen, the daft stuff, and we'll look to put some of that out as well, just so that people can know us. And I guess that was part of the residency in Roscommon, getting to know ourselves and our audience getting to know us better. We had 5 days in Roscommon in July, and we had a great time, and we put on a work in progress, and mad stuff came into our heads. We walked around the town and we were like kids, really excited to have a place and to really take it in. And yeah, we're adapting.
Maybe from those circumstances and from those limitations, we'll find a way to create even more relevant work, lasting work, that will kind of carry on beyond what's going on right now. And yeah, my other hope, I suppose, is that the idea of something live is something we get to experience again, something that I hope doesn't fall by the wayside. The idea of live performance, the idea of having a live audience as well. I hope that these are things we get to experience again, because it's what makes theatre, and it's important to me that part of the Irish art scene doesn't just fall by the wayside. So I hope that's something we all get to experience again.
So like everybody else, we're longing for that day to get back to a packed theatre, elbow to elbow, live audience, all that. But until then, social media has been really a brilliant way to still produce and engage and connect.
When we emerge from all this, that the ideas and the creativity and connection that's been happening through these times would just spill out and back into the places we've lost. All of the theatres and art centres and streets and museums, all of those places would be bursting and bubbling with people and ideas.
I really hope that we can all remember how many of us have turned to the arts during this time of crisis in search of hope, in search of a feeling of coming together, in search of connection and community, and how the arts has been there and has provided that.
I really hope that artists and theatre makers can continue to embrace and acknowledge the power of solidarity and in engaging with their community of colleagues as we move forward. I also really hope that local communities continue to behave in this amazing way that we've seen for the last number of weeks and over the course of this whole crisis, and that sense of community continues and maybe starts to see a little bit more of local communities encouraging and supporting local artists.
I want to get back into the theatre. At Fergoli I've had a lot of online Zoom rehearsals and meetups, and they're great. You can see people's faces very clearly, but sometimes there's a glitch in the sound or a time delay, and you don't get that in the auditorium. You mightn't be able to see the people's faces, but you can certainly hear those people, and you also can feel their mood and their emotions a lot more, because they are there with you. They're in the room. You can hear and feel those laughs, those cries, those sighs, grimaces, gasps, because it's in the moment. It's live, it's lightning in a bottle, it's magic. So get me back into the theatre, because that's where it's at.
My hopes after this, that's a very big question, and I guess it's that people will embrace theatre again. That the value of art and live art and sharing a space and sharing a story will be truly felt. That the next time we can be together and either perform or watch a performance and share that space, I think it's going to be a really emotional time to embrace the connection between people again, and the connection between stories and images and visual and emotion and feeling, and having all that in a space, and just that we don't forget that, and we don't forget that that's what theatre can do, and that's what theatre can bring about. And whether we are performing on our doorsteps for an audience of one or in massive arenas, I really just hope that as a society we hold on to the value of theatre. That's really the big hope, and I think it can be a reality. And it never ever fails to be exciting and exhilarating when you put work in front of an audience, even an audience of one or two, which we've all faced in different parts of our career. It's about that connection.
Thank you very much to everyone at Fergoli. It really is great to see so many artists adapting and the institutions that are supporting them through these changes. Now, our final guest this evening.
Hello, and my name is Maria Tivnan. I'm the art.
And I'm back. Our final guest this evening is Aonghus Óg McAnally, an actor and the artistic director of Rise Productions. Aonghus is also a commentator for OTT Wrestling, and he immediately responded to the crisis by starting Rise COVID commissions to support artists. The 4 videos that resulted from this project are available to view online, with the ask that viewers donate to the Civic Artists Emergency Fund. Hello, Aonghus. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Great to be here, Amy. Thanks for having me. Great, thank you.
Good. So, should we jump straight in? What was the immediate impact of lockdown and the COVID situation on you and your work?
Instantly, we lost one of the performances of Weekend Warrior, a show I directed that Tony Doyle wrote and performs in. We were due to be at the Axis, so that was instantly cut. But I have to say, full credit to the gang at Axis. Within an hour of Leo making the speech, they were on to us to say, we are going to pay you in full as if you have done the show. And we will then look to reschedule at some point down the tracks, but kind of no real pressure on that. And the idea that in the midst of all that turmoil for them, they had the foresight and the thoughtfulness to say, well, we're guaranteed a paycheck every week. Let's look after the freelancers was a remarkable thing.
Yeah,
an incredible gesture, and it's one that we were massively thankful for because it purely on a practical level, that financial cushion there at the very start of all this uncertainty was very welcome. But much more than the finance, it's much more about the ethos to say, look, we're going to look after the freelancers, we're going to look after the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, and I think that I've seen a lot of that from the people who are a bit more secure in the industry, and I think those that maybe weren't as aware or as wise to the differential between those that are salaried and those that are freelancers, I think they're very aware of it now. And fingers crossed, what that means is that as we go into the future, that a greater understanding of that disparity might be accounted for.
Yeah, out of this great difficulty, some long-standing positivity could maybe result, fingers crossed. And did you have any other projects or things that got cancelled or affected?
I'll tell you what I did have. I had the family holiday of a lifetime to Disney World booked, and it broke my heart. So the thing for me is, look, I'm a freelancer. I don't get holiday pay, and famously, as soon as you book a holiday, Steven Spielberg rings. So I hadn't been on a family holiday in like 6 years. My wife, for the last couple of years, takes our kids away on her own, and I always say, look, book the holiday for you guys. If I can make it, I'll be there. And invariably, I can't. Invariably, I'm on tour with a Rise show, or I'm doing whatever I'm doing, a gig pops up and I can't go. So I haven't been on a family holiday in 6 years. And this was when I said, right, look, this is it. We're writing it off. We're going and we're doing it. And then obviously it wasn't to be. So look, such is the way of the world. I mean, that's a real first world problem. If you look at other people kind of going through this, with all this. No, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah. I was really upset. So we'll see.
Not undervalue the family holiday.
Maybe
so
we'll
you mentioned Rise there, and I mentioned Rise in the introduction as well. Could you tell us a bit more about Rise COVID commissions, which kind of came into fruition so quickly? So I was wondering what kind of inspired that, and what was the process? Were there many applicants, etc.?
Yeah, so where it came from was a knee-jerk reaction because I had just found out that I was going to be doing the voiceover contract for a lot of the kind of public service awareness stuff. And so I knew that I would be one of the few who would be making a few bob during this crisis. And, I'm in a situation where the business has been very good to me over the years, and I'd like to give back wherever I can. And this was a situation where I thought, okay, well, something proactive that I can do is a series of micro commissions. And they were micro commissions. Like I wasn't handing out, 1,500 quid to everybody. Rise Productions is unfunded. This was coming from my arse pocket. So it was small fees, but basically the ethos behind it was very similar to Liam Bell's Gap Day initiative. And I had done a couple of the Gap Days last year. And more so than the financial income and end of it, the real thing for me with this was to be able to say to artists, you are still an artist, your work is still of value, and there is still an audience for it. I think that was important for me. And I think part of it as well is kind of calibrating against, there was a mad rush to get stuff online for free. And I'm a little bit cagey about putting stuff online for free because I do think we need to still place a value on the work. Whilst we all love what we do, it's incredibly fulfilling. This is how I feed my kids. I'm a professional actor. I don't have a day job. This is what I do. And so we need to make sense. And so that was why kind of the ethos behind the Rise COVID thing was that we would definitely still pay the artists a very small fee, but we'd pay them. And it would be presented to the audience free of charge with the encouragement that if they enjoyed it, to maybe go and make a donation to the Civic Fund, which was an incredible response so quickly for them to do that. I just thought it was really a worthwhile thing to do.
Yeah. So speaking of the Civic, we had them on earlier, and we've talked a bit with our other guests about the importance of institutions, the role of institutions, and how amazing it is what the Civic did so quickly. But was that their responsibility? Do you think it should have fallen to them?
Well, I think in the very short term, yes, because that's what that network is there for. and the idea that that programming money had come from central government through the Arts Council out to the venues, they were in a position to honour contracts and things like that.
Yeah.
So as a short-term knee-jerk response, yes, it was great and it was welcome, and I think it was probably the right thing to do because it was a quick, streamlined, no red tape way of doing it. However, in the long run, that's not going to be sustainable because I'm not all that optimistic about the current lie of the land. I think if we have a situation where we're talking about a socially distanced audience until we have either antiviral prophylactics or a very strong vaccine, then those venues aren't financially viable at that model. And so all this talk of, oh, well, we could have automatic ticket checkers or we could test temperatures as audience members walk in the door is irrelevant. Because if we can't generate enough box office income to keep the doors open, then we're not doing this. It can't happen. And so I'm worried about that. And my real fear is that without massive state intervention really soon, that network of venues around the country will crumble. The infrastructure will be gone. And that would be a real tragedy. Because audiences outside of Dublin deserve top quality theatre. End of story. We need to take stuff outside of Dublin. It's not enough that we all just make work in Temple Bar for people living around Temple Bar about people from Temple Bar. We have to take work outside of Dublin, which is something that Rise has been really strong about, touring nationally as much as humanly possible over the last 10 years. But also, we need that infrastructure there because the thing that network provides. So for Rise, who very rarely gets Arts Council money, we're usually just making stuff essentially on a commercial basis. But through a series of guarantees from venues and generating box office at those venues around the country, we can do it. We can make it happen. We can make these plays happen. And so if that network is gone, what you're doing is you're concentrating the power into very few hands or a very small select number of gatekeepers. And that's not great for the diversity of the industry. And, I'm looking at a situation now where, with Bewley's hopefully maybe finding a new home, maybe in Powerscourt, maybe somewhere else, but with Bewley's going, with Carl and Laura's theatre upstairs going, we're getting to a point where the hurdles over which you have to leap to get work on stage in Dublin will just be out of the reach of a whole swathe of the population, primarily women and primarily working class voices. I don't want to be part of an industry that's sidelining young women and sidelining working class artists. We need those voices there and heard. And so I think we will need massive investment and soon. But I think it may well be coming, fingers crossed.
That's so true, actually, when you were saying about theatre upstairs and Bewley's, those kind of, I'm looking for a certain phrase, but I can't find it.
Entry-level venues, entry-level venues where you could get in and where you were able to get in on a box office split rather than paying massive venue rental. The idea that you would need to have a couple of grand in your arse pocket before you can step on stage, and that's not buying a costume, that's not printing a poster. It just precludes so many people. We know what it costs to live in Dublin now at the moment. The idea that you'd be demanding of someone fresh out of the Lear or fresh out of the Gaiety that they have maybe 5 grand in their arse pocket to go and do it before they're allowed to tell their story. That's not the industry I want to be part of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Especially as someone that is fresh out the Lear, that doesn't have 5 grand in my pocket. So we talked a bit about the government's responsibility and the responsibility of the institutions. You went out of your way to make a difference there and to encourage people to donate to the emergency fund and to give some artists a small bit of money that you could in exchange for, validating their work and giving them something to create. Did you feel like that was a responsibility that fell to you, or did you just feel compelled to do that?
Yeah, well, I'm aware that I have a platform with Rise that I was in a position to do it. And also, as I've gone on and not just being an actor for hire anymore, but also now a producer and a director, the idea of commissioning work like that is now part of my brief, and it's something I really enjoy. So it wasn't entirely selfless. Like me, it's about me making connections with artists that I know and respect and really wanted to work with. And this was a chance to do, as I say, on a micro level, on a really small scale, kind of start the conversation. So with someone like Katrina, I have directed one of her plays before, but I've never commissioned her with Rise or anything. With Jeddah and Finbar working as well as they do on screen as well as theatre, to start that relationship there. Kate Gilmore, I'm a massive fan of, apart from being her friend, and I wanted to hear her bring that music there. And then TKB, and it was funny because the process was quite open, that I wasn't prescriptive in how we went about it, and what I asked from them, I left it very open, say, look, what do you want to do? And so there was talk even with TKB that he might write something fresh for us, or he might perform an existing thing, and that we left it, that it was a mutually beneficial relationship, and that we could both get what we needed out of it. And I really enjoyed it. It gave me something to focus on, a bit of light amidst the darkness, and I hope that it also provided that bit of focus for those as well, that amidst the chaos going, who am I? If I'm no longer able to tell the stories I tell, who am I then? Because I think, like a lot of us, I have a fairly unhealthy relationship with, defining myself through the work. So just that opportunity to give people a chance to say, oh, I'm still an actor, or I'm still a writer, or whatever way you want to phrase it, I can still perform, I can still go and entertain a crowd. To provide that opportunity, I think, was really valuable as well. And we got 4 cracking little pieces out of it, like some beautiful stuff. And I think, looking at Katrina's play, that may be the spark of something longer down the road. And again, with all of those performers and artists, they're people that I want to have an ongoing relationship with Rise with. So it's funny, like you mentioned earlier about kind of applications and stuff. A couple of people did get in touch with me about, hey, this seems like a really great scheme. But I can't find an application form. How do I apply? I was like, I set this up with you in mind. I'm about to ring you in half an hour to ask you, will you do it? So like there wasn't really a formal application process. It was essentially me reaching out to people who I'd been planning on working with for quite some time, and found this as an opportunity to say, look, if you feel this suits, if this is something you're up for, let's roll the dice on it.
Yeah. I suppose that's the way as well in a small industry where most people kind of either know each other or know of each other's work, or have worked together or want to work together, or So
and I think part of it was as well.
No, you go.
And I was going to say, part of it as well was that I'm used to filling out those application forms myself, and I know how hard work they can be. And the idea of inviting a lot of people to jump through hoops to invariably have to say no to them, I felt like I couldn't be adding extra misery to me, because at the time I was already starting to get the rejection letters from the schemes and bursaries and supports and whatever that I'd applied for. I was going, I can't do that. I'm just going to do this reach out directly and have it clean.
Oh, rejection letters. So what's next for Rise Productions? You can take that as post-COVID, I think plans and hopes.
Yeah, 2025 is going to be a hell of a year. The situation at the moment is we are planning a tour for next year. We were kind of bounced into the time frame of that by the parameters of the touring award from the Arts Council, which of course, with 48 hours to go, they pulled the rug out from us. That was good crack. So it's planned for May of next year. I'm not in any way optimistic that theatres will be open in May of next year. I'm looking at it practically. I don't see how the sums will work. I don't see how the numbers will make sense. I don't see that it'll be safe to put anything approaching a financially viable audience into those theatres. As it stands, I'm going ahead on the basis that May might work, and so that tour is still there. But I think realistically, what's going to be much more likely is something towards the very end of next year, and we'll be working towards that. The other thing I think in the meantime is it's a chance for us to recalibrate, and you're going to go, right, if the typical things that you wanted to do or the things that you kind of had planned now aren't possible, say for the next 18 months, then what? And so there's opportunity for us to go back to the kind of the audio drama roots that we would have started with. That kind of audio digital content is totally doable. For nearly 10 years, I've been talking about making a short with Rise, and I think we're now in a situation where we may, in the medium term, be able to do that safely. And the other thing is that all of your friends that you'd call the favors in, who are too successful now to do you a favor, everyone's free. So I might be able to call in those favors and get myself a nice little cast lined up, and a few, maybe make that happen. So I'd say that's what the rest of this year will look like, and into next year, hopefully then we can get the tour happening. But the long and the short of it is we simply don't know, and we won't know for quite some time. So I think, interestingly for me, because in September, Rise will be 10 years going. And we had all these elaborate plans for the 10th anniversary year and a big full season to commemorate and celebrate it and all this kind of stuff, which is now out the window. But I think actually, ironically, being a decade deep, what I'll actually end up doing is going back to my roots and that DIY punk rock ethos of just go and make it happen. And if you have to do it on a shoestring, okay, well and good, but grab by the scruff of the neck and just make the art happen. And if that means going back to 22-hour days and 7-day weeks like I used to do back in the day, and I still kind of do regularly now, then I guess it's just going to be that. But I'm still hungry for it. I still love telling stories. I still love making theatre in whatever kind of medium or format that takes. So it might well just be a case of knuckling down and doing that. And I think I'm up for it.
Sounds like you are. Luckily, I think lots of us are ready to, like you said, just do it, which is hopeful. Aonghus, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and stay safe and well. Good night.
Thanks a million, Amy.
So our usual summer of festivals may have been cancelled, and we may each, in our own way, be working through the stages of grief. I know I am. But our world has been turned upside down. But if tonight's guests have proven anything, it is the ingenuity, perseverance and creativity of artists across Ireland. We know we have to adapt in this pandemic age, but if history has taught us anything, it is that we do know how to adapt. When needs must, we will change our methods of working, we will reinvent form, we will fight for the right, the funding and the support to tell the stories that matter to audiences, from Roscommon to Dublin, from Carlow to Cork, from Galway to the rest of the world, and beyond. And as usual, we're going to end with a poem. Before I introduce you to the actor reading for us this week, I'd like to say a great big thank you to all of our incredible guests tonight, and to all of you for watching at home. You can check out new blog posts on theatremaker.ie and share the love by sharing tonight's programme on your social media. We love to see that the conversations started on this programme have been continuing throughout the week. So last, but by no means least, I would like to introduce Eanna Hardwicke, who is wrapping up tonight's episode with a reading of I See a Girl Dragged by the Wrists by Philip Larkin. He is in the cast of both Normal People and the feature film Vivarium, both of which have become available to watch since lockdown commenced. So if you like this, you can check out his work in both of those as well. From all of us here at Stage Door Live, we look forward to seeing you next week at 7. Good night.
Hello. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all keeping safe and well, first and foremost, and entertained and occupied if you can after that. It's not always easy. Certainly not for me. So delighted to get this chance to share something with you. I picked a poem by Philip Larkin called I See a Girl Dragged by the Wrists. So I actually came across it through seeing someone read it and then reading it in an anthology, which might be cheating. Sorry if it is. But it does, it has stayed with me since, and I think about it quite regularly. I think it's a very beautiful and mysterious poem, and there is one passage in particular which really, I feel, resonates with where we are now, and to me anyway, it speaks to the need to rebuild every day and start fresh, and keep shoveling away. So thank you so much for asking me to do this, and here we go. I see a girl dragged by the wrists across a dazzling field of snow, and there is nothing in me that resists. Once it would not be so. Once I should choke with powerless jealousies. But now I seem devoid of subtlety, as simple as the things I see, being no more, no less than two weak eyes. There is snow everywhere, snow in one blinding light, even snow smudged in her hair as she laughs and struggles and pretends to fight. And still I have no regret, nothing so wild, nothing so glad as she rears up in me, and would not, though I watched an hour yet. So I walk on. perhaps what I desired, that long and sickly hope some day to be as she is, gave a flicker and expired. For the first time, I'm content to see what poor mortar and bricks I have to build with, knowing that I can never in 70 years be more a man than now, a sack of meal upon 2 sticks. So I walk on, and yet the first brick's laid. Else, how should 2 old ragged men, clearing the drifts with shovels and a spade, bring up my mind to fever pitch again? How should they sweep the girl clean from my heart with no more done than to stand coughing in the sun, then stoop and shovel snow onto a cart? The beauty dries my throat. Now they express all that's content to wear a worn-out coat, all actions done in patient hopelessness, all that ignores the silences of death, thinking no further than the hand can hold, all that grows old, yet works on uselessly with shortened breath. Damn all explanatory rhymes to be that girl. But that's impossible. For me, the task's to learn the many times when I must stoop and throw a shovelful. I must repeat until I live the fact that everything's remade with shovel and spade, that each dull day and each despairing act builds up the crags from which the spirit leaps, the beast most innocent, that is so fabulous it does not sleep, if I can keep against all argument such image of a snow-white unicorn, then, as I pray, it may for sanctuary descend at last to me, and put into my hand its golden horn. There we go. Strong stuff, written in 1944. I hope you enjoyed it, and yes, keep safe, keep well.